The regime of Syrian strongman Bashar al-Assad claimed Monday through state-run media that Turkey began launching aerial attacks across the border as American troops are obeying President Donald Trump's order to withdraw to the United States. Trump defended his decision as unconfirmed reports of airstrikes blanketed Twitter, largely traceable back to unverified amateur video. Syrian government-run Sana TV called it Turkish aggression targeting the northeastern countryside of Syria, where some Kurdish forces are based. Claims of airstrikes are likely to ramp up military tensions and benefit both Syria and Russia, which aim to be viewed as targets rather than aggressors. Turkey reportedly denied launching any aerial attacks near its border with Syria. They will also inflame tensions between Trump and Republicans, with a swathe of senior party figures including Mitch McConnell, Nikki Haley and Lindsey Graham breaking with the president for pulling U.S. troops out, with Mitt Romney calling it a betrayal. President Trump told reporters at the White House on Monday that he had told Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, presumably during a Sunday phone call, that there would be consequences if harm comes to the dozens of remaining American servicemen and women there. He warned Erdogan, "I don't want anything bad to happen to our people during the troop withdrawal," and promised big trouble if casualties result. Trump mainly washed his hands of the Syrian military quagmire, saying any resurgence of the ISIS terror army would no longer be America's immediate concern. Countries in what he said is not a friendly neighborhood will have to make do without the United States, Trump said after signing a trade agreement at the White House. Iran is an example. Hates ISIS, and ISIS hates Iran. Iraq, you know all about that. Turkey. Syria, he rattled off. Let them take care of it. Let them take care of it. We want to bring our troops back home. Trump said the explosive disassembly of the ISIS caliphate had left tens of thousands of people in custody, including both soldiers and civilians, and we can't release them. I told President Erdogan, "It's going to be your responsibility," he said of Turkey's leader. Across the Potomac, the Pentagon was gearing up for a potential blame game. The Department of Defense made clear to Turkey, as did the president, that we do not endorse a Turkish operation in northern Syria, spokesman Jonathan Hoffman said in a statement. The U.S. Armed Forces will not support or be involved in any such operation. Meanwhile, Republican allies of the president lined up to express their outrage at the result for Syria's Kurdish minority, who will soon find themselves trapped in a geographic squeeze without America's continued backing. Now really, who is responsible? It's really Russia. It's Turkey. It's Iran. It's Iraq. And it's Syria. And anybody else in the neighborhood, okay? We call it a neighborhood. It's not a friendly neighborhood. But these countries should do it. Trump didn't foreclose the idea of bringing U.S. troops back into northern Syria, but warned that we're 7,000 miles away. These ISIS people, whatever you want to call them, "These people are right there," he said of nearby nations. And any Islamist resurgence would be right there. They're touching many of those countries that I just named. Trump took incoming from his allies in Congress, including Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell called his pull-out a retreat that would increase the risk that ISIS and other terrorist groups regroup. Trump's Republican allies, one after another, condemned his decision. Some focused on potential harm to American interests in the Middle East. Others warned that the troop pullout could doom hundreds of thousands of Kurds to a Turkish genocide. The president responded by warning the Turks not to test his great and unmatched wisdom and threatening to destroy the country's economy if they did anything off-limits, an apparent reference to the possibility of Turkey invading Kurdish territory in Syria. Within hours, Turkey was reportedly denying unverified video on Twitter suggesting that it may have launched airstrikes on the Syrian border. McConnell was unmoved by Trump's online justifications, saying senators still see a threat in Syria from the ISIS terror army and other sources of jihadist resurgence. And as we learned the hard way during the Obama administration, McConnell added, American interests are best served by American leadership, not by retreat or withdrawal. South Carolina Republican Sen. Lindsey Graham, one of Trump's closest friends in Congress, also blasted him in a tweet, calling the move a stain on America's honor and a disaster in the making. The biggest lie being told by the administration is that ISIS is defeated, Graham said on Fox and Friends, adding, the caliphate is destroyed, but there are thousands of fighters over there. And no, the caliphate would not have been destroyed without the Kurds. To say to the American people that ISIS has been destroyed in Syria is not true, he insisted. Kurdish forces in Syria currently hold more than 10,000 ISIS fighters prisoner, and the move risks a resurgence of ISIS, Trump's former envoy for the fight against the Islamist army, Brett McGurk, tweeted. McConnell added his disapproval to that of Nikki Haley, Marco Rubio and a growing list of other presidential confidants. Even televangelist Pat Robertson, a longtime conservative voice among Bible Belt Christians, issued a televised slap. Trump, he said, is now allowing the Christians and the Kurds to be massacred by the Turks. The President of the United States is in danger of losing the mandate of heaven if he permits this to happen, Robertson added. The president's announcement sent shockwaves through the U.S. government, with officials telling Fox News that top officials at the Defense Department were completely blindsided and shocked by the order. Trump reportedly said nothing to Turkey's President Tayyip Erdogan about a planned withdrawal during a phone call between the two leaders on Sunday. Photographs on Sunday of a U.S. military base in the Syrian border village of Tel Arqam showed a virtual ghost town, with American troops bugged out and clearing the way for Turks to invade. By morning's end he was mounting a full-throated defense on Twitter, saying his decision would disadvantage Russia and China, and emphasizing that he could order troops to return on short notice. But Trump's sudden decision to wash his hands of the troubled region left his political compatriots anxious. The Kurds were instrumental in our successful fight against ISIS in Syria. Leaving them to die is a big mistake, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley tweeted. If reports about U.S. retreat in Syria are accurate, Florida Republican Sen. Marco Rubio said in a tweet, the Trump administration has made a grave mistake that will have implications far beyond Syria. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said on Fox and Friends that I want to make sure we keep our word for those who fight with us and help us, adding that if you make a commitment, and somebody is fighting with you. America should keep their word. One of the show's hosts, Brian Kilmeade, asked McCarthy to try to intervene and call the president before it's too late. Even Texas Sen. Ted Cruz took a shot at Trump on Twitter for leaving the Kurds in the lurch. Our enemies and rivals, Iran, Russia, etc. don't abandon their allies. If we want allies to stand with America in the future, we shouldn't either. Honorable nations stand by their friends, Cruz tweeted. It would also be disgraceful if we sat idly by while Turkey slaughters the Kurds, as public reports suggest that Turkish leader Erdogan explicitly told President Trump he intends to do. Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State and failed 2016 presidential candidate, blasted Trump. Let us be clear, the president has sided with authoritarian leaders of Turkey and Russia over our loyal allies and America's own interests, Clinton tweeted. His decision is a sickening betrayal both of the Kurds and his oath of office. Her own State Department, however, tweeted on her behalf in 2012 that President Tayyip Erdogan and Turkey were strong stalwarts on behalf of the Syrian people. Utah Sen. Mitt Romney, who ran unsuccessfully for president in 2012, also said leaving the Kurds to twist in the wind would be a betrayal. Trump issued stern defense after stern defense of his decision on Monday, a move that will make way for a Turkish invasion in the region and endanger the Kurdish fighters who the U.S. has been aiding for years. Erdogan announced the launch of his long-planned offensive on Monday. Trump dug in his heels after announcing the troop withdrawal. If Turkey does anything that I, in my great and unmatched wisdom, consider to be off limits, I will totally destroy and obliterate the economy of Turkey. I've done before, he boasted. They must, with Europe and others, watch over the captured ISIS fighters and families. The U.S. has done far more than anyone could have ever expected, including the capture of 100% of the ISIS caliphate. It is time now for others in the region, some of great wealth, to protect their own territory. The USA is great. Trump had tweeted earlier that I was elected on getting out of these ridiculous endless wars, where our great military functions as a policing operation to the benefit of people who don't even like the USA. The two most unhappy countries at this move are Russia and China, because they love seeing us bogged down, watching over a quagmire, and spending big dollars to do so. When I took over, our military was totally depleted. Now it is stronger than ever before. The endless and ridiculous wars are ending. We will be focused on the big picture, knowing we can always go back and blast. Trump had in the early morning justified his decision in a 5-part 247-word tweet storm, framing it as part of a larger policy of pulling U.S. troops out of ridiculous endless wars and insisting that the ISIS caliphate is now 100% defeated. "We will fight where it is to our benefit, and only fight to win," the U.S. president wrote in all caps. He fumed at European allies' refusal to accept the repatriation of their citizens who U.S. forces have captured as fighters for the ISIS terror army. And he appeared unmoved by international concerns that a power vacuum will favor an ISIS resurgence under Kurdish slaughter. The move also left United Nations and European leaders aghast over fears of ethnic cleansing. The UN warned Turkey not to allow a civilian massacre on the scale of the Bosnian War after the US announced it would step aside and allow Erdogan to move his troops across the Syrian border. Fears of chaos in refugee camps and Kurdish-controlled prisons followed. Bosnian Serb troops slaughtered 8,000 Muslim men and boys in 1995 at Srebrenica during the Bosnian Civil War. UN officials said they were preparing for the worst, where it was feared any new offensive from Ankara would lead to high civilian casualties and lead to mass displacement. The move marks a major shift in U.S. policy and effectively abandons the Kurds, who were Washington's main ally in the years-old battle against ISIS. Trump later defended his administration's decision to withdraw troops from northern Syria, saying the Kurds will now have to figure the situation out. He said it was too costly to keep supporting U.S. allied Kurdish-led forces in the region fighting the Islamic State. The Kurds fought with us, but were paid massive amounts of money and equipment to do so. They have been fighting Turkey for decades, Trump said in a series of tweets. Turkey, Europe, Syria, Iran, Iraq, Russia and the Kurds will now have to figure the situation out. Civilians must be spared in any Turkish military operation in northeast Syria, where the United Nations hopes that mass displacement and Srebrenica-like killings can be prevented, a senior UN aid official said. It was feared the departure of the U.S. from the volatile border region could leave Turkey free to crush the Kurds, who hope to forge their own state in the aftermath of the defeat of ISIS. U.S. soldiers previously worked closely with Kurdish forces of the Syrian Democratic Forces (SDF), led by the YPG militia, in the battle to destroy Islamic State's caliphate. But Turkey considers the YPG to be a terrorist group and has long threatened to launch an assault on the Kurds as Ankara sees the group's growing power along its border as a threat to its security. The US has already warned Kurdish fighters that they will not defend them from any Turkish attack, an unnamed American official has claimed. Russia said Syria's territorial integrity must be preserved, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov reiterated hours after the announcement. The Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces (SDF) said they had been stabbed in the back by a surprise U.S. statement that U.S. forces would not be involved in a Turkish operation in northern Syria, the SDF said. Turkey said it will not permit ISIS to return, amid fears its threatened offensive against the Kurdish militia in Syria could bolster the jihadists, a presidential spokesman said. Speaking after a phone call with President Trump, Erdogan said that the operation could begin at any moment as Russia warned Syria's territorial integrity must be preserved. Following the announcement of Washington's abrupt decision to stand aside, the UN has said it is preparing for the worst in the region, fearing an assault could send civilians fleeing. Kurdish forces warned that Turkish invasion threatened to destabilize the area, causing chaos in SDF-controlled prisons and refugee camps packed with battle-hardened jihadists, meaning ISIS terror cells could reform if a security vacuum formed. The pullback of troops comes hours after the White House announced Ankara would soon move forward with its objective to create a safe zone in northern Syria and that U.S. soldiers will not support or be involved in it. But there are fears that Turkish advance into the volatile region will reverse years of work done to drive extremists out and allow ISIS to regroup. The US-backed SDF, that controls much of the northeast region along Turkey's border, added it will not hesitate for a single moment to defend itself from an expected Turkish invasion and threatened all-out war on the entire border. A U.S. official said American forces had evacuated 2 observation posts at Tel Abyad and Ras Al Ain in northeast Syria, along the Turkish border. Other U.S. forces in the region were still in position for now, the official added. Kurdish-led forces in northeast Syria confirmed that U.S. forces had withdrawn from areas at the border with Turkey, where a threatened Turkish offensive would hurt its war against ISIS and roll back 5 years of security achievements. A video posted by a Kurdish news agency showed a convoy of American armored vehicles apparently heading away from the border area of Tel Abyad. Pictures also showed abandoned checkpoints in Tel Abyad and Ras Al Ain after U.S. troops evacuated the border towns. Erdogan spoke hours after the White House said U.S. forces in northeastern Syria will move aside and clear the way for an expected Turkish assault, essentially abandoning Kurdish fighters who fought alongside American forces in the years-long battle to defeat ISIS. In a major shift in U.S. policy, the White House released a statement late on Sunday saying President Trump spoke with Erdogan by telephone to discuss the plans and the U.S. will remove all of its forces from the immediate area. The U.S. informed the commander of the Kurdish-led SDF forces in Syria on Monday morning that U.S. forces will not defend them from Turkish attacks anywhere, according to a source. Turkey will soon be moving forward with its long-planned operating into northern Syria, the U.S. statement reads. The United States Armed Forces will not support or be involved in the operation, and United States forces, having defeated the ISIS territorial caliphate, will no longer be in the immediate area. The White House also confirmed that Turkey plans to take into custody all ISIS fighters captured over the past 2 years that European powers have refused to take in. The United States government has pressed France, Germany, and other European nations, from which many captured ISIS fighters came, to take them back, but they did not want them and refused. The United States will not hold them for what could be many years and great cost to the United States taxpayer. Turkey will now be responsible for all ISIS fighters in the area captured over the past 2 years in the wake of the defeat of the territorial caliphate by the United States. Ankara said its planned safe zone in northern Syria could allow up to 2 million Syrian refugees to return. The safe zone will serve two purposes: secure Turkey's borders by eliminating terrorist elements and allow refugees to return to their homes, Callan said. He said Turkey had no interest in occupation or changing demographics. There are over 3.6 million Syrian refugees in Turkey, the highest number in the world, which has become an increasing source of tension in the country. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a UK-based organization that reports on the war, said US forces had withdrawn from an area between the towns of Tel Aviv and Ras Al Ain. The SDF, led by the Kurdish YPG militia, said the Turkish invasion will have a great negative impact on the war against ISIS. It said in a statement, despite our efforts to avoid any military escalation with Turkey and the flexibility we have shown to move forward in establishing a mechanism for the security of the borders. The American forces did not fulfill their commitments and withdrew their forces from the border areas with Turkey. Turkey is now preparing for an invasion operation of northern and eastern Syria, added the SDF, which with US backing in recent years defeated Islamic State across much of northern and eastern Syria. The Turkish military operation will have a great negative impact on our war against the Daesh organization and will destroy everything that has been achieved with regards to stability during the last years, it added. In a statement, the SDF said, the American forces did not abide by their commitments and withdrew their forces along the border with Turkey. Asked about the White House comments, Erdogan said that both Turkey and the US were working separately to see what steps can be taken so that foreign fighters in prison can be repatriated. "This is being worked on," he said. More than 1,000 U.S. troops are currently deployed in northeastern Syria, but will no longer be present during the invasions. The U.S. soldiers work closely with the Kurdish YPG, which leads the Syrian Democratic Forces in the regions. Turkey is highly likely to wait until U.S. soldiers have withdrawn from northern Syria before launching an offensive, a senior Turkish official said. He added that the withdrawal of U.S. forces from the planned area of operations could take 1 week, and that Ankara was highly likely to wait for this in order to avoid any accident.